Hi, my name is Ron Matheson. I'm a Senior Vice President with WebsiteClosers.com. We're a boutique brokerage that represents savvy entrepreneurial sellers of online businesses. And today our segment is going to be about how every deal has 9 lives. Now, understand throughout the process, okay, it is a very intricate, time-consuming process that requires a tremendous amount of finessing from beginning to end. And it can be a very, very difficult process. So essentially, when it comes time to make sure this thing gets from beginning to end, okay, we're going to start from the very beginning with the offer. Now, when we talk about how deals die, sometimes they die right on the vine. You get a buyer that comes to us, he says, I like the company. Where do you think he'll be? And we say, well, we don't know where the final price is. We know where it's going to end up, and we've got a pretty good feel. He'll say, well, let's test the water. Let's throw this offer out there, and it's a lowball offer. Now, we highly suggest he does not lowball the offer, but oftentimes it happens. When I bring it back to the seller, what does the seller do? He looks at it and he says, is he out of his mind? I'm not going to do this. This is a terrible offer. Matter of fact, I don't even want to deal with this guy. Let's move on. Let's talk to somebody else. That's a mistake. Okay, it doesn't mean this isn't a good buyer. It means you made a mistake with his offer. We may have a shorter leash with this particular buyer because he did lowball it. But every offer, every buyer could be a good one. So we want to work with this buyer to make sure that we get a resolution on it. Is he a good buyer or not? So we're going to come back with a counter. Always counter, regardless of whether it's a lowball offer or not. Always counter. And let's find out, is he our buyer or not? It doesn't mean he's a bad buyer because he came in with a bad offer. Now, don't get too excited on a full price offer either. It happens. Not very often, but it happens. Usually when it does, it can be an equity group. I've seen these happen more than once. Okay, they come in and they say, okay, we'll take it. I'll say, well, what's your offer? Offer him full price, we'll take it. They're not planning on offering full price. They're not going to pay that. It's that simple. What they're going to do is they're going to work you down through due diligence. Okay, essentially here's how it's going to work. There's 2 forms of due diligence request lists we get. The first one might be 30 to 40 items, and it came from a boilerplate list on the internet. I hate those. Why? Because they don't pertain to this company. There's a lot of stuff, and when you're reading it, you're going to say, what does this have to do with me, or how do I answer this, or what do I do? And they don't understand. They're not really sure of what it is, and it creates all this confusion. Okay, so that's number 1. Okay, recently, I had an equity group who came to me with a due diligence list, and it was 104 items. Never seen one that big at all. My first reaction was, you gotta be kidding me. And you know, I knew the seller, when he looked at it, was going to say, what? This is 104 items. Well, let me tell you something. I read through those 104 items. I was impressed. They were awesome. If I were using a due diligence list to buy a company, that's the one I'd use. It pertained to this deal and that company. It was really well crafted. Now, once again, the object is to go through those 104 items, to get all that data ready and together and submit it. It's a lot of work. No due diligence is perfect. These equity groups know it. They do this all the time. They know it's going to happen. So during the process, they find the problems. And when they found the problems, essentially what's going to happen is they're going to come back to me later and they're going to say, Ron, you know, we've got some issues with this company. You know, we didn't know this, and we didn't know that, and we didn't know this. And they're banking on the fact that that seller just worked his butt off because he had to come up with 104 answers and he spent weeks doing it. And so, in essence, they know that he's not going to be jumping at the bit to run back and deal on the same level with the next buyer. And they're counting it. So essentially they come back with a counter. And now it's our turn to kind of work it to a deal that we can either live with or we can't, because the counter is not going to be a good one. So don't get excited about that full price offer any more than you do the lowball offer. Now, the next thing that's going to happen is due diligence. As we discussed, no due diligence is ever perfect. What's going to happen with a buyer is a buyer's going to go to his accountant, in all likelihood, and the accountant's going to give him a caveat, and he's going to say, you know, I've got problems with this company, higher risk than you thought, I think you're probably overpaying. That's what he's going to say. Buyer then is very nervous, he's kind of a little taken aback, and he comes back to me and says this. Well, to keep this from happening, either one of 2 things is going to happen. If he insists on going to his accountant, I'm going to warn him it's going to happen. Or he's going to take my advice and he's going to go to somebody who specializes in due diligence. He's part of the team. And when it comes time to doing that due diligence, believe me, that expert is going to find the same problems, probably even more than the accountant, by the way, because he's an expert at it. But when he goes to the buyer, he's going to explain what the problems are, what the significance of each problem is, and he's going to give him suggestions on how to mitigate them. And it gives us a place to work from. It helps us to save the deal that otherwise could have gone bad and died. Now, let's go to financing. When it comes to financing, I guess the best thing I could say is expect the unexpected. The bank is going to weigh in on these deals. We need the bank. They're a necessary evil. They're going to get you more money at the closing table than you will get elsewhere, period. End of story. And so we need them on board. But things do go wrong with banks too. And let me give you an example of one of the things that happened. This was back in the end of '08, right when the big financial crisis and the big collapse of the banks and everything was going wrong. And essentially this was a publicly traded major bank that everybody's heard of. And essentially I had a deal, we were already setting the closing day on it. We were at the end of the deal. And the bank called me up and they said, Ron, we've got a problem. And, you know, like I've never heard that before. And essentially I'm like, okay, lay it on me and let's fix it. And they're like, well, I don't know if we can fix this one. Matter of fact, we can't fix this one. I'm like, any problem can be fixed. So whatever the problem is, you tell me, I'll go find your answers and let's get this thing to the finish line. They said, well, we're going to have to pull the deal. I was like, pull the deal? What do you mean? Well, here's the problem. With the new mark-to-market rules that the Fed has come up with, we're not in compliance. We're short of cash. And so essentially we've gone through our deals, and if it's not a blue chip company, we're pulling all our deals back. I couldn't fix that one. I can fix almost anything. I can't fix that one. Okay, so it actually, with that bank, we died with that bank. However, the good news is I had a buyer who wants to buy a company, and he found one he likes. I have a seller who came to me because he wants to sell his company. So I have motivation on both sides. It cost us a couple months, unfortunately, but in the end, we got that deal done. I took it to another bank. We got everything to the finish line. We closed. And I guess you could kind of describe our role as we're the fixers, because when it breaks, we're going to fix it. And once again, every deal has 9 lives. So when it comes to selling your company, for a little more information, go to website closers at youtube.com, and thank you for listening.